Were you always this loyal, or just afraid? Claire Morgan asked across the candlelight. Ethan Reynolds didn't answer. Because she wasn't just Marcus Bennett's ex-wife. She was the one thing he was never supposed to want. Under a quiet Boston snowfall, one blind date turned into a choice between loyalty, truth, and the chance to feel alive again. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, have you ever had a call or message that changed your life? And where are you watching from? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real emotional stories. Let's begin. Snow had been falling over Boston all day, soft, quiet, almost polite. The kind of snow that made the city look forgiving, even when people weren't. Ethan Reynolds kept both hands on the steering wheel as he drove through Back Bay, his mind doing what it always did at night, counting responsibilities instead of feelings. 41. Single father. One 7-year-old daughter, Sophie, sleeping at home with a neighbor who'd promised, again, that Ethan deserved a life outside homework and winter boots. And tonight, a blind date. Marcus Bennett's idea. Marcus's relentless, well-meaning, you can't stay frozen forever, man. Ethan parked, sat in the car an extra 10 seconds, and watched his breath fog the windshield. Just dinner, he muttered. Just one dinner. Inside the restaurant, warmth hit him like a memory. Candlelight, old brick, the low hum of conversations. Ethan gave his name to the hostess and followed her to a small table by the window, perfect view of the snowfall. Perfect trap, too. Marcus always picked places where it felt rude to leave. Ethan checked the time, 6:57. His phone buzzed. Marcus, she's already there. Brown coat. Table by the window. Don't run. Ethan exhaled, half a laugh, half a grimace. The door opened. A gust of cold slid in. And then she stepped through, brown wool coat, scarf, snow melting in her hair. Ethan's body went still before his mind caught up. Claire Morgan. Marcus's ex-wife. The woman Ethan had known in the background of his life for years, holiday parties, group dinners, polite smiles that never lasted long. After the divorce, she'd become a ghost in their circle. Ethan had seen her twice in 2 years. Both times, she looked like she was surviving on discipline alone. Claire's gaze found him. Shock flashed first. Then something quieter, recognition mixed with the same disbelief Ethan felt. For a moment, neither of them moved. Even the restaurant noise seemed far away. Claire took 2 careful steps closer, as if approaching a skittish animal. Ethan, she said softly. Claire. The hostess glanced between them, confused. Ethan forced his lungs to work. I thought I was meeting a stranger, he said, not accusing, just stunned. Claire's lips pressed together. So did I. Of course. Marcus had lied to both of them. Ethan stood, chair scraping lightly. He should have walked out. Loyalty demanded it. Common sense demanded it. But then Claire's eyes dropped, just for a second, to Ethan's left hand, bare, no ring. Same as hers. Claire swallowed. This is humiliating. Yeah, Ethan said. That's one word for it. She turned slightly toward the door, ready to escape. And Ethan surprised himself by saying, wait. If we leave, he wins. That stopped her. Ethan continued, voice lower. We can sit. Eat. Figure out what we're going to say before we commit a felony. Claire's mouth twitched, almost a smile, but tired. Plan the murder calmly. Exactly. She hesitated one last beat, then unbuttoned her coat and slid into the chair across from him. When the server arrived, Ethan and Claire ordered wine without even looking at the menu, 2 people grabbing for something normal to hold on to. The first sip warmed Ethan's chest. The second made him braver than he wanted to be. Claire stared at the candle flame like it held answers. Did Marcus tell you it was me? No, Ethan admitted. He kept it all vague. Said you were, kind. Smart. That you'd get it. Claire let out a quiet breath. He told me you were safe. The word landed heavier than it should have. Outside, snow thickened against the window. Inside, Ethan looked at Claire Morgan, his best friend's past, and realized this dinner wasn't an accident. It was a test. And whatever Marcus was trying to fix, it had started long before tonight. They ate slowly, as if moving too fast would make the whole thing real. Claire spoke first, because silence was dangerous. Marcus never told you why we split? Ethan shook his head. He said it was complicated. Which is what men say when they don't want to admit they failed someone. Claire's fork paused. It wasn't one big betrayal. It was 1,000 small dishonesty moments. Ethan watched her carefully. Like what? Claire's eyes stayed on her plate. Promises he meant when he said them. Then forgot once life got loud. I'll be home by 7. I'll come to therapy. I won't make you feel alone in a room full of people. Ethan felt something tighten in him, because he knew that kind of loneliness. The kind you can't explain without sounding ungrateful. Claire finally looked up. He's not evil, Ethan. He's just allergic to stillness. And I needed stillness. Ethan nodded once. Sophie needs stillness. Routine. That's most of my life. Claire's expression softened at the mention of Sophie. How is she? The question startled Ethan. Good. She's bright. Too observant. Kids always are, Claire said, and there was a shadow behind it, like she was speaking from a place she didn't volunteer. Ethan tried to keep his tone neutral. Marcus didn't mention you had any contact with her. Claire shook her head quickly. I don't. I never wanted to confuse her. But you asked how she is. Claire looked away, caught. Because I've seen her at office parties. In pictures. And because, her voice lowered. Because I've noticed you for years. Ethan blinked. That's. I know, Claire cut in. It sounds insane. But you were the one man in Marcus's world who didn't perform. You didn't posture. You listened. You helped clean up after everyone left. You were always the one putting coats on chairs and finding lost gloves. Ethan's throat went dry, because he didn't know how to receive a compliment without paying for it later. Claire took a breath. Tonight wasn't my idea. But since we're here, I'll be honest, I've been tired of living like I'm not allowed to want anything. Ethan stared at the candle again, as if it might tell him what the moral thing was. Loyalty. Friendship. Boundaries. But then he remembered Sophie's face when she'd asked him last week, do you ever smile when I'm not looking? Ethan set his fork down. If we do this, if we even consider it, we need rules. Claire nodded immediately, like she'd been waiting for that. Yes. No secrecy games, Ethan said. No lies. Not to Marcus. Not to Sophie. Not to ourselves. Claire's eyes glistened, but she held it in. Agreed. And we don't rush, Ethan added. I won't bring someone into Sophie's life until I'm sure it's steady. Claire's voice softened. I respect that. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, something in Ethan's chest shifted, small, almost invisible, like the first crack in a frozen river. Then his phone buzzed again. Marcus, you still alive? Ethan looked at Claire, and for the first time that night, they both laughed, quiet, startled laughter that sounded like relief. But beneath it, Ethan felt the question growing sharper. Why would Marcus gamble with this, unless he was hiding something bigger than guilt? 2 weeks passed with the kind of careful connection that felt almost unreal. Late-night phone calls after Sophie fell asleep. Lunches in public places where nobody could accuse them of sneaking. Texts on snow days, small jokes, small truths. Ethan told himself it was harmless because it was honest. Until the first threat arrived disguised as normal. It happened on a bright winter afternoon, sun bouncing off old snowbanks, the sky an impossible blue. Ethan picked Sophie up from school, her cheeks red from recess. "Daddy," she announced, climbing into the car. "Someone asked about you." Ethan glanced at her in the mirror. "Who?" "A lady," Sophie said, too casually. "With a shiny coat. She talked to Mrs. Lind." Ethan's grip tightened. "What did she ask?" Sophie shrugged. "If you were still single." Ethan felt cold creep under his collar, even in the sunlight. "What did Mrs. Lind say?" Sophie looked down, suddenly unsure. "She said she didn't know." That night, Ethan received a message on Facebook from an account with no real photos. "You shouldn't be around Claire Morgan. Ask Marcus Bennett what he did in 2019. Ethan read it twice, then a third time. That was the year Marcus's marriage started cracking. The year he'd begun sleeping on Ethan's couch, just for a week. The year Claire had stopped laughing at parties and started leaving early. Ethan wanted to ignore it, block, delete, pretend. But morality wasn't comfort. Morality was doing the hard thing before it got worse. He called Claire. She answered on the second ring. "Hey." Ethan didn't soften it. "Someone is watching." Silence. Then Claire's voice turned very calm. "What happened?" Ethan told her about Sophie. About the message. Claire didn't gasp. Didn't ask who. Just exhaled, like a door in her mind had opened. "I was hoping it wouldn't reach you," she said. Ethan's stomach dropped. "Claire, what aren't you telling me?" A pause. Then, honest and brutal, "Marcus didn't just grow apart from me." Ethan sat down hard at the kitchen table, the same table where Sophie drew spring flowers she'd never seen yet. Claire continued, voice steady but strained. "In 2019, Marcus invested in something. A startup one of his friends pitched. It was supposed to be quick money. He didn't tell me. He took a loan against our home equity." Ethan swallowed. "How much?" "Enough that when it went bad, we were drowning," Claire said. "I found the paperwork. We fought. He promised he'd fix it. He didn't. He kept hiding it. And now?" Ethan asked. Claire's voice dropped. "Now the man behind that deal, Vince Calder, has been circling back. Marcus still owes him. And if Marcus doesn't pay, Vince uses pressure." Ethan's mind flashed to the shiny coat woman. "Why would Vince care about you?" Ethan asked. "Because I testified," Claire admitted, and her voice finally trembled. "Not in court. Not officially. But I gave documents to an investigator. Quietly. I wanted out. I wanted the lies to stop." Ethan's chest went tight. "So this is about revenge." "It's about control," Claire said. "Vince doesn't like women who refuse to stay scared." Ethan stared at the window where the last of daylight faded. He thought of Sophie. Of Marcus. Of Claire's exhaustion. He said the truth he couldn't take back. "Then we don't hide. We don't run. We do this the right way." Claire whispered, "Ethan, he ruins people." Ethan's voice stayed low, steady, like a man who fixed broken things for a living and refused to let fear set the rules. "Then we tell Marcus the truth. Tonight." Marcus Bennett opened his door in sweatpants, holding a beer, already grinning, until he saw Ethan's face. Claire stood behind Ethan in the hallway, hands tucked into her coat pockets like she was bracing for impact. Marcus's smile died. "Oh," he said quietly. "So, it's like that." Ethan didn't waste time. "We got a message." Someone asked Sophie questions at school. Marcus went pale in a way Ethan had never seen. Vince. Claire's jaw tightened. So you do know. Marcus stepped back, letting them in. His apartment smelled like stale takeout and forced normalcy. He didn't sit. He paced, rubbing a hand through his hair. I didn't want you dragged into it, Marcus said to Ethan. That's why I set you up. Ethan blinked. You set me up because you thought that would protect me? Marcus stopped pacing, eyes wet. No. I set you up because I saw you dying inside. And I saw her alone. And I thought, if you two had something real, you'd both finally stop living like punishment is all you deserve. Claire's voice cut sharp. Don't make this romantic. Marcus flinched like he deserved it. You're right. I don't get to. He turned to Ethan. In 2019, I took money. I chased the high. I lied to Claire. Then I lied to you. I told you it was work stress. It wasn't. It was debt. Ethan's mouth went dry. How much do you owe him? Marcus's voice broke. Still. Enough. Claire folded her arms. And now he's using Sophie. Marcus's head snapped up. He won't touch her. Ethan's tone stayed controlled, but there was steel under it. You don't know that. Marcus swallowed hard, shame all over his face. I know. Silence fell heavy. Then Marcus did something Ethan didn't expect. He walked to a drawer, pulled out a folder, and set it on the table. Here, Marcus said. Everything. The loan documents. The messages. The bank statements. Claire already gave evidence once. I kept copies. Claire stared at him, stunned. Why? Marcus's eyes filled. Because I was going to confess. I just kept being afraid. Ethan leaned forward. Marcus, why didn't you come to me? Marcus laughed once, bitter. Because you're the best man I know, Ethan. And I didn't want to watch disappointment hit your face. Ethan closed his eyes for a second, anger and love colliding like weather. When he opened them, he said the only moral answer. Then we do this clean. Police. Lawyers. Restraining order. We don't play Vince's game. Claire's voice was quiet. He'll retaliate. Marcus nodded, tears finally falling. Let him. I'm done hiding behind other people's courage. Ethan looked at his best friend, wrecked, honest, finally human, and felt something painful and necessary settle into place. The betrayal had been real. But so was the repentance. Ethan stood. Tomorrow morning, we go together. Marcus wiped his face, nodding. Together. Claire exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding her breath since 2019. And for the first time in years, the three of them were in the same room, not performing, not pretending, just choosing truth. Outside, the snow began to melt at the edges of the sidewalks. By the time March arrived, Boston looked like a city waking up. Snow still lived in dirty piles along curbs, but the air had changed. Softer. Lighter. As if winter was finally tired of itself. Vince Calder didn't disappear overnight, men like him never did. But the moment Marcus filed a full report and handed over everything, the dynamic shifted. Control hates daylight. There were calls. Threats that sounded confident until lawyers answered back. A shiny coat woman showed up once more near Sophie's school, and this time a patrol car was already waiting because Ethan refused to gamble with maybes. Marcus did the hard thing every day, showed up, told the truth, and accepted consequences without asking for pity. He sold his car to pay down the clean part of what he owed. He took a second job. He went to meetings. He apologized to Claire without trying to win her back. He also looked Ethan in the eye one night and said, steady and simple. I meant what I said. I want you happy. Both of you. Even if it hurts. Ethan didn't forgive Marcus quickly. He forgave him honestly, like a man teaching his daughter what integrity looks like. And Claire. Claire stopped living like she had to earn safety. On the first warm Saturday of the year, Ethan set the kitchen table with mismatched plates and fresh fruit he'd overpaid for because Sophie said strawberries tasted like sun. Sophie helped, tongue poking out in concentration as she arranged napkins like a tiny event planner. Are you nervous? She asked. Ethan paused. A little. Sophie nodded seriously. Me too. Claire arrived at 10:07 a.m., carrying a box of pastries like an offering. She looked different in spring light, not magically healed, not perfect, just present. Her hair was pulled back, her coat unbuttoned, her face free of the winter armor. Ethan opened the door and for a second they just looked at each other in the doorway of his real life. Hi, Claire said softly. Hi, Ethan answered. Behind him, Sophie hovered, half hiding, half curious. Claire crouched slowly so she was eye level with her. Hey, Sophie. I brought something sweet. Sophie studied her, sharp little gaze. Then Sophie said, my dad smiles more lately. Ethan's throat tightened. Claire's eyes warmed. That's good. Sophie handed Claire a napkin like it was an official invitation. Okay. You can come in. Claire laughed, quiet, surprised. And Ethan felt that laugh hit a place in him that had been frozen for 3 years. They ate brunch in sunlight that spilled across the table. They talked about small things, school, books, the dumbest movie Sophie had ever seen and loved anyway. And in the middle of it, Ethan realized the real twist hadn't been the blind date. The real twist was this. He'd believed loyalty meant sacrificing his own happiness forever. But morality, real morality, meant choosing honesty, even when it was messy, and letting people rebuild what they broke. Later, when Claire helped Sophie wash dishes, laughing when water splashed her sweater, Ethan stood in the doorway and watched them, heart steady for the first time in years. Winter hadn't vanished. But spring had arrived anyway. And Ethan finally let himself believe he was allowed to step into it. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more stories that stay with you.